With Congress unable to reach a deal, the president took matters into his own hands. We've talked about that, signing 4 executive orders. This comes after a lot of back and forth on how to provide financial relief to millions of unemployed Americans. But was this the right move? Joining us now to weigh in on the executive orders is Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Senator, thank you for joining us here. What do you think where we stand right now? Did the president take the right steps?
Well, first of all, we have no money, so it's not like he went to the rainy day closet and searched for money or the savings account. You don't go over to the Federal Reserve and open a big safe and say, oh, here's all this money I'll pass out to people who are unemployed. We have no money. It has to be borrowed. But the second problem with this is presidents don't get to legislate. Presidents don't have the power of the purse. And I was a big critic of President Obama for spending and borrowing and for executive orders on immigration. So I'm not a fan of this. I don't think the president should get to make these decisions when it's difficult and you have trouble getting a decision. Then you get to an impasse, and impasses are what drive people on both sides to compromise to find a solution. But no, I'm not in favor of using executive orders to spend money because I think that goes against not only the spirit, but the letter of the law as far as the Constitution goes.
Yeah, here's what's interesting to me, though. Is it powerful politically? Because the average person, you've got the clock ticking, so you and I kind of know that this isn't going to go through the courts because it would take too long. But the average person who's waiting on the next unemployment check or stimulus check, if that's where we go on this, he's kind of moved that up and taken some of the leverage away from Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats, hasn't he?
I guess, but I think I remember in the old days, maybe 6 or 7 months ago when Republicans professed to be fiscally conservative and that borrowing and spending is what Democrats did, and we were supposed to be the party of fiscal sanity. And so borrowing $1 trillion more, even done by executive order, isn't conservative. So I'm not for the policy. I think it also makes the problem worse. So if you're a governor and you're sitting on, 20–30% unemployment. We have 700,000 people unemployed in Kentucky. If you're the governor of Kentucky and the president extends unemployment insurance, what does that do? Takes heat off of the governor to open the economy. So really all of these things, passing out free money, printing free money, will destroy the value of the currency, may lead to a bigger recession than we can even imagine, but it also is a disincentive to opening the economy. What has to happen is the governors need to realize the effect of keeping the economy closed. The effect of the government-mandated shutdown is a government-created depression. And so until we open it up, we will be in the throes of a depression. What happens if we come November? We have a new president or the same president, but they still say, oh, we're still in a terrible place. We have to do another $2 trillion. Can we do this forever with no ramifications? No, look, gold is $2,000 an ounce right now. People who are in the know are worried about the stock market. I am very, very concerned that we are entering into a perilous time with our stock market, and people do need to be concerned when gold is $2,000 an ounce that there is going to be a calamity when people discover that this money that was created is not real wealth, it's an illusion, and will have ramifications.
How many other Republicans agree with you, Senator?
I think a vast majority of those who are not in office, those who are out in Kentucky and in different places, are still fiscally conservative, and they're wondering what happened to Republicans who have lost their way. In Washington, mine is a lonely position sometimes. I do think on this latest stimulus or bailout bill that they're looking at, I think we would have gotten, had there been a vote, between 20 to 25 Republicans. So about half of the Republican caucus is starting to worry that, yes, we've gone too far in this borrow and spend mode. About half of them, though, are big government Republicans, and really not a lot of difference or air or space between them and Democrats. So the bill would pass overwhelmingly once they got to a compromise, and they probably would have, because here's the dirty little secret of Washington. They always compromise to spend money they don't have. It is the universal, consistent theme of Washington.
Yeah, and will they do that by the end of this week, you think?
Well, that's the one thing, but the executive orders take the pressure off of it. And so the Republicans that would have voted for this are like, whatever. President's now done half of what we're going to do, and it's not as bad as what the Democrats want. So it takes the pressure off of the negotiating team. So I think the president won't be negotiating as hard, neither will the Congress. So it's less likely a deal comes because of the executive orders. Had the executive orders not occurred, whether or not they're going to be successful, had they not occurred, they'd probably still be negotiating furiously. There still might be a deal at some point, because there is some criticism that this may not actually take effect or may not have as much effect as legislation, and that's probably true. But I think the potential for a deal goes down with these executive orders.
Now, one of the things you do want to push through at some point is an expanded HSA program. Could you explain that to folks?
If you want to have prices come down for either your insurance or what you pay at the doctor's office or what you pay for drugs, what we need is the ability to save tax-free more money to pay for these things. And as you save more money, if you're a good saver and you don't get sick, these accounts accumulate over time. It allows you to get a higher deductible policy, which would allow you to get cheaper premiums. Now, under Obamacare, it didn't work that way. They gave you higher deductibles, but they also gave you higher premiums because they mandated everything that had to be covered. What I would imagine is a world where within a year or two, a third of the public would have significant health savings accounts. They would pay first dollar for their drugs and first dollar at the doctor's office out of their tax-free plan, their tax-free account. But over time, if they were good savers and accumulated more, you'd get cheaper and cheaper health insurance over time. I did it with my family for about 11 years. I was at a big multi-specialty clinic, and I was spending between $3,000 and $5,000 a year for pretty good insurance with a high deductible, whereas my colleagues and their families were paying $11,000 to $12,000 a year. And this has now been 10 years ago. Yeah. But really, there was a huge differential between those who want to save and pay for their health care up front and use insurance for catastrophes. We're getting very economic insurance. And if we expanded these health savings accounts, we'd get more of this.
Well, good luck to you on that, sir. And I like you, I never thought we'd be looking at $30 trillion as a national debt staring at us, and that's a possibility. So we'll see where this goes. But thank you so much, Senator, for joining us today.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.